thank you so much for joining us. Today on ENCA, we are focusing on violence in schools, and what we're hearing repeatedly is that the problem with crime in society has now spilt over into our spaces like schools. And one can only imagine that the same now is true of spaces like hospitals, where people go for help with their health and to be healed. What are you hearing from your members?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us on your show. We are greatly concerned with what we have been hearing from our members around the violence of healthcare workers in public health facilities. This has been an ongoing issue, but it seems like it is slowly escalating, and the nature of the violence is increasing. And this is of concern to us simply because we feel that our members and all general healthcare workers will not be able to do their work effectively under such conditions.
Now you're speaking on behalf of the Medical Women's Association of South Africa. One supposes then you're in a position to speak specifically about the kinds of challenges in terms of personal safety that female healthcare practitioners have to face. Can you tell us a bit more of what you've come across?
Okay, so on a daily basis, we have women doctors doing work in the hospital settings, being exposed to all kinds of violence against them, be it physical violence or verbal abuse. You must remember that we have women in all specialties, and in the public sector, they are working right through the day into the night when they are on call. In some cases, the young doctors actually stay on the premises on the hospital grounds and are usually called in the middle of the night to come and attend to emergencies in casualty. Our concern is that there is no form of security whatsoever for the ladies when they go to work, and not just them, even the nurses who are on duty during those hours. And in most instances, they are exposed to violent patients or their families, and there is no means of security available for them in the premises, especially in the late hours of the night when they are at work. And that is a concern for us. But I think what is paramount as well is the fact that the nature of the violence it's increasing. It's not only being verbally abused, but there is physical abuse to a point of rape, as we saw in the matter of the recent situation in Pelonomi, and gun pointing where cars are being hijacked or other issues.
Now, these stories around the physical safety of healthcare professionals is one thing, but it cannot be helping the mental state of so many of these workers who are having to help so many South Africans in their day-to-day work.
Come again?
I was saying that their physical safety is one thing, but it must be having a very, very negative impact on the mental state of these healthcare practitioners as well.
Indeed, it does. There have been incidences, if I may quote one case where a young lady in Tembisa around March was so abused or violated to a point that she actually got a post-traumatic stress disorder from that. And obviously in those situations we get cases where doctors actually refrain from wanting to do night calls, and that on its own becomes an issue simply because then we don't have adequate staff to attend to patients as when they're needed. But obviously when such things happen, safety becomes paramount to each individual, and they would do anything to safeguard themselves from such harm.
Has your association reached out to government? What are you hearing from them? Because the things that you are expressing to us and bringing up now is something that we're hearing mirrored across the country in healthcare areas and hospitals.
Right. So this has been an ongoing trend for a very long time. We are aware that back in 2011, the Ministry of Health actually commissioned a task team around safety and security, and they went around the country evaluating or auditing hospitals around safety measures and security measures. What is of interest out of that report, which is in the public domain, is that there is very little way of controlling dangerous goods or dangerous weapons coming into the hospital. Security is minimal, both in the hospitals and in the clinics. And we are not certain as to whether any implementation of the recommendations has been done since. So it would be great if we can get some feedback from the Ministry of Health and all the other stakeholders that was involved during that audit report to tell us exactly what has been done since then. And we would like to see more stakeholders being involved in this kind of decisions so that we can see how best things can be done to improve situations within the hospitals.
We've been hearing from schools who are dealing with violence on their premises saying that they need things like metal detectors and they need physical security, one or two, either reservists or members of security companies, as it were. Do you feel that those could be potential practical solutions for some of the issues that your members are facing?
You know, it's very difficult to say that will be adequate. It could be one of the measures that could be used. For instance, one of the issues that happened or that took place at Pelonomi quite recently after the almost rape attack of the one doctor was that another doctor was pointed at gunpoint with a gun and I think her car was taken in front of the security that was on the grounds. And I think the issue right here is that we may have security members placed on the grounds, but if they're not well trained and well equipped to deal with such measures, it's tantamount to nothing. So I think there are other things that can be looked into, other measures that can be looked into to secure security and safety measures within the hospital setting. It's not all down to putting more personnel in place. We also do understand that with the recession that has been taking place since 2008, basically they had to be a downgrade in how to utilize human resources. But obviously, it needs to be effective human resources that is put in place and effective measures that can safeguard healthcare workers in the workplace.
One almost gets a sense that the public spaces like schools and hospitals are indeed under siege across South Africa. Thank you so much. The Medical Women's Association of South Africa, the unions, Dr. Malebo Maponyane.